war against drugs and lolly lounges in Johannesburg's South Eldorado Park persists. Despite numerous government interventions that included increased police visibility in the area, as well as several social development programs, the problem of these lolly lounges continue to haunt this community. Tonight, Special Assignment exposes the toxic phenomenon of lolly lounges, which are drug dens where teenage youth smoke crystal meth and where young girls are lured into a life of addiction to drugs and prostitution.
You close down one and three pop up. It's just, drug addiction is just so rife in Eldorado Park.
You don't have any money to offer the guys that are maybe selling the drugs in the lolly lounges and stuff. So you offer yourself.
Clayton Martens was a quiet child when he was growing up. In his teens, he had dreams of becoming an engineer, and with good grades at school, his future looked promising. As the eldest of 5 brothers, they looked up to him. But at 16, he got hooked on tick. Clayton started frequenting the lolly lounges just down the road from his home in Extension 8, and soon, his world started spiraling downwards. On the 12th of November 2014, he became one of the most recent suicide victims in Eldorado Park.
Hy's op drugs. Hy het so gereageer. Ek het hom geslaan. Hy het gesê hy smash.
He hung himself from the wall of the shack, just meters away from his family home. Despite having a good job, this young man had been battling with drugs for the past 10 years, and after a heated argument with his mother, he decided to end it all. Yvonne is comforted by the women in her community who face similar challenges, and in particular, one mother, DERELEEN James, who has sworn to wage a courageous war against drugs.
It's like every week, every second week, there's a suicide. I just received a call saying that a boy has just hung himself in Extension 8. I spoke to the mother earlier on, and just this morning, her son was quite aggressive with her, and asking for a tablet, saying that he's going to murder him. She's reported it to the police station numerous times. She said to them that her son is suicidal, but I guess, like I said, it's become the norm. We're used to the fights in the community. We're used to sons screaming and shouting and beating up their mothers. So it's another drug-related incident.
Clayton's fate adds to 20 the number of drug-related suicides in this area over the past year. Special Assignment accompanied the South African Police Dog Unit during a special drug operation in Eldorado Park to understand the extent of the problem.
Yeah, it's not yours, you're right. You ran, you put it there, but it's not yours. But it's not mine. It's not yours, you're right. 7. We will sort this out in court. 8.
This young man was arrested during a random stop and search operation in Extension 1 for allegedly selling drugs to teenage youth in this park. He was found in possession of 16 bags of methamphetamine, commonly known on the street as CAPT, which is a highly addictive drug very similar to crack cocaine. Blocks of flats like these in Eldorado Park often become a breeding ground for lolly lounges, as we discovered during the raid. A lolly lounge, as it is commonly known on the street, derives its name from the glass pipe that these addicts smoke tick from, which resembles a lollipop. These drug dens have become a silent killer of teenage youth in communities like Eldorado Park. During our investigation, we discovered that there were 40 lolly lounges in Eldorado Park alone, within a radius of 100 kilometers. The operation, which started in November 2014, saw the arrest of 20 drug dealers, and the unit took possession of 30 bags of cat and tick. Friday night is a big night for drug trade in Eldorado Park, and that is why the K9 unit is gearing up for a major operation that could take them into the early hours of the morning. They've been very visible in the community over the past 3 weeks, but tonight the stakes are slightly higher as Captain du Plessis and his unit brace themselves to raid the notorious lolly lounges. Captain du Plessis, a highly decorated police officer in the South African Police Dog Unit, also known as the K9 Unit, has been policing drugs in Eldorado Park for the past 3 years. As the head of the Gauteng K9 unit, he has developed a team of dedicated policemen and women who are streetwise and savvy. Still, he is concerned for their safety.
Careful, please, let's be careful. Remember, 90% of the time the lolly lounges are people under the influence. No?
The first lolly lounge that they arrived at in Extension 9 was empty, too empty, as if they saw the raid coming. But the next lolly lounge in Kersiedorp proved to be a success. Normally young girls are found in these drug dens, although none were found during this raid. 5 suspects were arrested for possession of tik and dagga. As the hunt for lolly lounges in Eldorado Park continues into the night, Captain du Plessis and his team cannot let their guard down because they are often seen as unwanted guests.
They're getting fed up because it's their children that must live in these circumstances. They must grow up here. And they thank us, really, they do thank us a lot. Negative, yes, there's always negative, but we're looking mostly for the positive people. Yeah. And the negative people will be the drug addicts themselves. And you know, as soon as you put your foot down and you're putting pressure on them, then of course they're going to stand up to you and trying to make you bad.
The members of the K9 unit are very familiar with the way the drug syndicates operate in this area and are convinced that for raids like these to be successful in Aldo's, the element of surprise is critical to catch the dealers off guard. As the dawn breaks in Eldorado Park and the night raid draws to an end, they share with us their views about how dependent these operations are on community participation.
Unfortunately, they are also scared for their safety as well because the drug dealers will hunt them down. But whistleblowing, who knows more is going on here than the people that's living here? They know what's going on their front door or their back doorstep. They know where the drug dealers operates from. And most of the positive information comes from the community. Not even from informers, it comes from the community directly. But I can see their side of the story as well, they're afraid.
Despite this fear, the majority of people in Eldorado Park believe that increased police visibility is essential in order to counter the spread of lolly lounges and drug trafficking. However, it is evident that in order for drug busts like these to be successful in the long term, the policing of drugs as well as the prosecution of drug-related crimes need to be specialized and consistent.
Dear Dad, Mr. President, I'm addressing you in this manner because you are first a dad and then our president. I ask you to hear my cry as a dad and not as our president. Dad, we need you to help us mothers save our children. A wave of drugs has swept over our community and has taken over our lives, killing our children by the day. Our community is flooded with lolly lounges. The merchants lure our young girls to these houses and pays them 100 rand to keep the men entertained. They soon introduce them to drugs. The men then sleep with them and pay them.
This heartfelt letter was written by DERELEEN James, the concerned mother of an addict, on the 2nd of April 2013. Shortly after receiving it, the presidency responded. President Jacob Zuma and several senior government officials visited Eldorado Park on the 14th of May 2013 to meet with the community and hear their concerns.
I am afraid today. I am scared. Scared that you will leave here. Leave us with a lot of hope and not do anything about the situation.
He promised to eradicate the scourge of drugs in this area once and for all.
We must look at everything that can be an impediment.
What drove you? Almost 2 years later, we met up with DERELEEN James to find out what prompted her to take action.
I was feeling hopeless. I felt like giving up. I felt defeated. I didn't know where to go to anymore. I just felt like I was stuck. And there just wasn't any help available. I had gone through all the systems. I had tried rehabs. I had gone through to the courts. I had my son arrested. I changed schools. I took him out of Eldorado Park, placed him in a private school. That didn't help. Nothing helped. And it just felt like no one understood. I think that was my anger and my frustration, the fact that nobody really understood the urgency and the pain and the reality of living with a loved one affected by drugs.
What has your journey been like in combating the scourge of drugs here in Eldorado Park?
It's been very tough, especially being a single. Especially being a single parent. I felt like I'd failed my son. I felt like I did something wrong, or I was being punished for something that I've done. So that's the way. I just felt very hopeless. It's been a nightmare. It really has been a nightmare. You see this person every day, and it looks like, I always say this, it looks like the person that you've given birth to, but all you see is that vague image, but it doesn't sound like them. They don't behave like your son, like your child. It's just very difficult. Sorry.
Strong police action followed in the next 3 months after the presidential intervention, and a special SAPS task team was deployed. Several of the notorious lolly lounges in Eldorado Park were raided and closed down for business. Numerous arrests of drug peddlers and merchants were made, and it seemed that the war against drugs in Eldorado Park had been won. But despite the successes that these operations yielded at the time, a few months later, when the task team was redeployed, it was back to business as usual.
What happens is you close down one and three pop up. It's just, drug addiction is just so rife in Eldorado Park, and also in terms of the money. You know, a lot of our people in this community are unemployed. So a lot of people depend on an income, see this as an income for them. And what happens in these lolly lounges is quite sad, because our girls are trapped here for days on end. Sometimes, you know, the cops even give up looking for the girls, because you would find these girls and they'll run right back there to the lolly lounge because to enable their habit.
Lolly lounges have become a very sad reality here in Eldorado Park. For instance, when walking through Milnerton Street, you can't help notice this vacant plot of land. That is because 3 years ago, a lolly lounge stood right here, and 3 people died due to drug overdose. This infuriated the community to such an extent that they took the law into their own hands and burnt this lolly lounge down to the ground. Peter RAFFERT is one of the ward councillors in Eldorado Park. He believes that although the presidential intervention created some hope in this community, most of it was short-lived.
I think what started out all guns blazing, we had SAPS in here, but only for about 3 months. After that, it was business as usual for these guys, selling the drugs and all of those things, and even becoming defiant towards the community in terms of, ons gaan die drugs verkoop, so dat sal ons nie vertel nie. And if you want to tell us, we will get your kids and put them on drugs. That is our, and the cry out to SAPS was in terms of, let's deal with this effectively. We can't just come and make a makeshift solution to the problem. It has to be, there has to be sustainability of the plan that needs to be out there.
Our investigators infiltrated a few of these lolly lounges, not only in Eldorado Park, but even as far as Springs on the East Rand, to demonstrate the extent to which this toxic phenomenon has spread throughout the province. In this lolly lounge in Brakpan in Springs, we found 2 young girls who were smoking crack cocaine with a group of men. We discovered that because of their addiction, these girls are now living in this lolly lounge and exchange sex for drugs to sustain their habit. This was the case in many of the lounges that we investigated. In this clandestine world of drugs, teenage girls, sometimes as young as 14, are lured into a life of addiction to tik, cat or crack cocaine. Next stop, Eldorado Park, which has the highest number of lolly lounges by far in Gauteng, and many of these places are known to the community, like this lolly lounge in Extension 3. Initially, our team of investigators had challenges gaining access into this lolly lounge, but after day 2, we succeeded. This is a lolly lounge in the making in a section of Eldorado Park called Kersiedorp. In street language, it is called the Blomspot. Here we found young girls and an older woman smoking tik with a group of young men. Our team then moved to a new lolly lounge in Extension 8, which was being set up by a young couple, and where we found a girl in her 20s smoking with a group of guys. The next day, our investigators visited a lolly lounge in Extension 1, where we finally came across an underage girl smoking tik with a group of men. This is the Adassa Center, a rehabilitation center for young women who have a drug addiction. We spoke to some who have recently been rescued from lolly lounges around Gauteng. We cannot reveal their identity for fear of victimization. Donna, which is not a real name, ran away from home a year ago and was eventually found in a lolly lounge in Eldorado Park.
When you crave for the drug, it's very bad to get rid of that craving because it feels like you can't stay without it. You need it in your system, and that's especially that's the worst drug is crystal meth, because if you don't have it, they call it hanging. You hanging. You feel like you're down. You feel like your body can't work. So in order for it's a whole bunch of mind games. Your mind plays games with you, and in your mind it's like, okay, I need the drug. I need it. I need it. I need it, and it honestly makes you do whatever you can possibly do to get it.
She's currently on the mend, learning new skills, but she remembers how her addiction led her to a point where she was willing to do anything for a fix.
With me, it was more of a sense like giving myself away sexually, which was a very disgraceful thing for me to do. I mean, like, I don't like how I feel inside about what I did to myself, and I don't know, the craving was just there, and I had to fulfill it at the time.
Donna is one of the many girls who is now in recovery and who has been fortunate enough to have survived the clutches of drug merchants in the lolly lounges. Amber, also not a real name, is also a recovering drug addict that used to frequent lolly lounges.
The worst experience that I had was one girl basically having a tournament with like 5 guys, and me actually witnessing this, which really broke me.
A tournament is when a girl sleeps with a group of men. Amber describes how the currency of sex in exchange for drugs in these lolly lounges works.
So basically you broke. So you go into the lolly lounge and you don't have any money to offer the guys that are maybe selling the drugs in the lolly lounges and stuff. So you offer yourself, and it would be like if one guy, you approach one guy and you go to this guy and you'll say, look, I need a fix, I need a line, and you'll be like, basically it's like 5 rand or 10 rand a line. For one pool, it would be 1 round.
Why are you here?
Okay, this is the first time that I've been at a uni center or a rehab or anything like that.
These girls who once frequented lolly lounges are now united by something different, a common desire to stay sober and to live a better life. Their lives were nearly destroyed by drugs, but now they are being taught life skills and given the opportunity to reach for their dreams. Bernie RODRIQUEZ runs the Adassa Center for Girls and believes that something drastic needs to be done to save many more girls that are being trapped in these drug dens.
Is she? Yes, she's a really older. It's sickening. It's you know, me working with the girls. I promise you, it hurts me deeply to see the pain in some of our girls' lives. There is a real pain. And so I plead with our communities and our government to make a change. And we need to work with government. Not only, it's not government's responsibility, but it's the community. If we all stand up, because we are the majority. We're not the minority, we are the majority at the end of the day. To fight this.
Lapland, a city dump where all the refuse is disposed of, also a place where some addicts end up when they reach their rock bottom. THANDO is one of them, but luckily she's now in rehabilitation. She was an Ayope addict with 3 months in recovery and is still a very broken woman.
My life is upside down. It's upside down now. The things I used to do. Drugs. Places I used to be at. Drugs.
Often in the front line in the fight against drugs in a community, DERELEEN organizes regular awareness campaigns and acts as a facilitator between the community and government in order for them to access the necessary help.
I don't think the problem's just going to go away. Dealing with the scourge of drugs is extremely complex. I recognize that. And yes, although government is trying their best, yes, there's been many interventions from SAPS, from Department of Social Development, I still feel that there's a big gap in terms of communication and synergy between the various departments.
At any time of the day or night, lolly lounges are operating and more young girls are being lured into addiction. Recovery coaches like DERELEEN are also hard at work trying to undo this damage. In Eldorado Park, an anti-drug organization, Sharing Without Shame, is the first point of contact for drug addicts and their families.
I use every day.
Every day I was using. I was
What do you use?
A lolly and Mandrake.
This young girl has been a tick addict for more than 5 years. She's made more vulnerable by a pregnancy and automatic exclusion by rehabilitation centers. In order to better understand how these drug dens emerged, we spoke to FAZIL CARRIM, a former lolly lounge owner and now recovered addict who used to operate in the community of New Clare. He was once considered a drug kingpin here.
It's like a shebeen. If you buy your liquor and you take it away, you're going to buy that one case and you're going to go drink that one case. Now, but if you sit there and you drink them, you're going to drink 3-4 cases out. So that's what basically happened with lolly lounges. If you buy your stuff and you go, you're going to smoke that and you're going to think, I'm not going to get into my car again to go, or I'm not going to go buy anymore. But if you ever lolly lounge, you smoke that, finish, there's 2-3 ladies around you, you're going to buy and buy and buy and buy and buy and smoke and smoke. That's how it is. That's how lolly lounges came about.
FAZIL got involved with selling drugs when he saw how well a drug dealer friend of his was doing financially. His business at the time was in a rut, so he decided to get involved with selling tick, not knowing that the very product he sold would lead to his downfall.
He gave me some to sell. I started selling, it went well, I started making money again. I could cover my things. In no time I could cover my things again. And eventually, I started using it. Just that one day, you know me, I don't take drugs, man, so it won't really hurt. Let me take today. I started taking little. Eventually I was hooked.
Within a few years, he lost his marriage and nearly lost his life due to his addiction. Today, he says he is 5 years clean and now tries to help fellow addicts on their journey to recovery.
You know, we need to target, not the small kind dealers. If we need to stop this, we need to stop it by, we need to hit the guys on top that fabricates it, that manufactures it, brings it in, and that brings the things in to make it. We need to hit those guys hard. Because if we don't, I'm telling you, we're not going to have a next generation. Because at the moment, it's targeting our younger kids.
And every minute that passes by without sustained action to completely eradicate the scourge, neighborhoods like Eldorado Park and many others like these become the playground for drug lords and kingpins, turning young girls into prostitutes, young men into drug slaves, and neighborhoods into lolly towns.